Alright guys, welcome to another video. This is going to be the second installment of the iRacing Dirt how-to. Last video we covered how to drive the late model. I started off with the super late model, and I did that with a reason. If you can drive the super late model, you should be able to drive the other late models as well. It's the same technique, same philosophy, but it tends to be a little bit more throttle. So if you can drive the super late model with less throttle and more throttle control, you should be able to drive the less horsepowered versions of the same car with more throttle and less throttle control. So, with all that being said, the next thing we're going to roll into is a little bit more of a technical car now that we have the new update, the new physics model for the 2020 Season 2. We're going to move into the UMP Modified. Now here, once again, we'll be running with the Charlotte Dirt baseline. And I will show you that, show you proof that I'm running the setup identical to the Charlotte Dirt baseline. These cars are a lot different. They're a lot more technical now that they've put the new model in, that they've done the new physics update, new tire model. But I've noticed a lot of drivers struggling with this car and pushing through the turns. Now this is a completely different animal from the late model. 100% different animal, different horsepower, different weight transfers, different tires. Everything about this car is different from the late model here on iRacing. And I think, my personal opinion, I'm leaning towards this being one of the best dirt cars on iRacing now. And I'm going to get right into showing you how to drive this car. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm running the setup identical to Charlotte Dirt. I haven't even so much as taken the fuel out of it. Look right down the setup and see that I'm running the exact same thing. You compare it to your iRacing Dirt baseline and see that I'm running the exact same thing that is on the baseline for iRacing right up here under iRacing setups. That being said, we're going to go ahead and hop out on the track. I'm going to turn about 2, maybe 3 laps and show you exactly what I'm running, exactly what I'm doing. You have to excuse my paint. This is the paint that I did myself. It's not the final paint for the car, as one of my drivers repainted my car, so you have to excuse my shitty paint job here, but the new one will be on the car very soon. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pace around at 40 miles an hour, and then we're going to go ahead as if we're taking the green flag out of turn number 4, and we're going to go around the track. We're going to run a normal lap, maybe 2, and show you what a normal lap looks like, and then I'm going to work you through how to actually drive the car and how I'm doing it. Coming out of turn number 4, I'm going to get on the gas as if we're taking the green flag. Slide up the track.
38.424.
Off the throttle. Just rolling around the corner. Back into the throttle. Back to the track. Go back into the throttle. The track.
16.663.
Get less throttle around the turn. Not quite to the bottom, but still there anyways. You'll notice I'm there again. I'm not full throttle, just as I was not in the super late model. Back down the straightaway once again. Now, I'm going to take you through in slow motion and show you exactly what I did, and I'll show you why I did it. Alright. Now, go all the way back to where we come out of the pits. We'll go cockpit view. Alright, so we don't need to show you where I'm pacing around the track. So here's where I get ready to take the green flag, so to speak. So we're going to come out of the turn here. Green flag, quote unquote, drops. We're going to get on the gas pedal. We're going to immediately go full throttle. With a slower speed, yes, it's possible to do. And you'll notice I go all the way down to a quarter throttle with these. And when I go to rotate the car, and I'm going to go back and show you this in an even slower pace right here. I'm turning the car, but it's not quite turning. So I go to turn it again. And when I do, I didn't quite get to show it to you there, so I'm going to go back again. So I'm full throttle when I'm rotating into the corner. And then as the car rotates, I go way down on throttle. Back turning left, and when I did, I went full throttle once again. Now the problem that a lot of people are having, and I'm going to show you the problems, and I'm going to show you how to correct the problems, I'm not pushing the car. I'm not trying to run more throttle. I'm not working it really hard. And there's a reason for that. The new physics model has made this, in my opinion, what I believe is probably a lot more realistic than any other car on iRacing, with the exception of the other modifieds, the big blocks and the 358s. Every time I'm turning left, you'll notice I am completely full throttle in the car, and I'm not sliding up the track. I'm not coming down the track, and I'm not spinning out. The reason for that: these cars do not like to rotate on the brake. So like I said, I will show you that. I will go back and show you what this car looks like going around the track at full throttle. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Is it wise? No, it's really not wise. I will also show you what this car looks like if I drive it like a late model. It's a little bit sketchy driving it like a late model, but here we go. So I'm going to go ahead. This time around, I'm going to try to drive it like I would a late model, especially like I would a late model with my own setup. And this took me a little bit of figuring out, but once I realized, hey, it's just like the Big Block Modified, I started driving like the Big Block Modified, which we will cover in another video. I'm going to go ahead and go now. You notice I'm losing my line. I'm losing a lot of speed.
23.819.
And I'm having a really hard time maintaining the car. The reason being is that I'm spinning my tires now. With this new tire model that iRacing has introduced, these cars do not like to be wide open. See that I'm over a half a second slower full throttle than what I am maintaining my throttle. And that's not the track. I can show you this lap around, or the next lap maybe even, by actually going out and beating the lap time that I've already laid down this session. These cars are a completely different animal than what they used to be. And a lot of drivers out there, they're going into the turns like this. They're going in, they're backing out of the throttle, and you notice I can't get the car to rotate until I get back on the throttle. The second I got back on the throttle, the car rotated. Here's another thing that they're doing. When they're trying to get the car to rotate, and it's not wanting to rotate while they're off the throttle, they're also doing one of these.
0.933.
Which I guess Charlotte's not really the best track to show it to you, but you'll notice a lot of times when you hit the brakes in these cars, they like to push, they like to shove up the track. And that might not be quite as realistic, but if you go to your local track and you watch drivers out there racing, especially newer drivers, you'll notice they're pushing up the track. And while they're pushing up the track, they're hitting their brakes. You'll notice like their left front wheel and their back wheels a lot of times, they'll lock up and they're just sliding straight up the track. They've just created that skid in their front wheels. If their front wheels are in a skid and they're not rotating, the car's not going to rotate. You have to have that roll for the car to actually rotate. So keep that in mind and think about that next time you're going into the turn in a UMP Modified and the car's not wanting to rotate. Instead of giving it less throttle, instead of giving it brake, give it more throttle. Create a little bit of rear wheel spin to rotate the car. Now obviously your goal is not to rotate too much. Your goal is to actually keep the car as flat as possible and maintain as much speed as possible, which I'll show you that here in just a second. You want to control your throttle around the turn. You want to maintain your throttle, and you just want to come around the turn nice and easy in a perfectly steady line. Now, it's going to be a lot of turning left and a lot of turning right in these cars. You're going to work the wheel quite a bit more than what you would in the late model, depending on how you do it and depending on your setup. But it is very, very important to keep the car as flat as possible and to maintain as steady of a line as possible. It's not actually with these cars in the new model, it's not as important to worry about your line as what it is to worry about staying in the same line. Sometimes it's going to be a slider line, sometimes it's going to be a top line, sometimes it's going to be bottom line, sometimes it's going to be right straight through the middle. A lot of times, especially at Charlotte with the new physics model, I will go straight through the center of the track in qualifying, and I find that to be the fastest sometimes. Sometimes it's down on the bottom of the track, sometimes it's up at the top of the track. It just all depends on your track conditions, which is something that we will cover in a later video on what you're going to look for and how you're going to drive it. And mind you, the reason why we come to Charlotte is because I think amongst every dirt track on the service, I think Charlotte is probably the easiest or one of the easiest to drive. It's such a simple cookie cutter baseline track, but it's such a good track, really and truly. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn a couple more laps here. Alright, so I forgot to change my camera view, but I'm going to have to backtrack here, and I'm going to have to show you exactly what I was some of the stuff that I was talking about. But you want to maintain the same line around the track in order to be quick. You want to aim for the same spot on the track. With that being said, right in this line right here, this is what I'm going to aim for. This is the line that I'm going to try to hit. And then we'll come out of the turn, we're going to come up the track, and we're going to come up here. But we want to keep the car as flat as possible. We want to maintain the same throttle. We want to maintain the same line around the turn. We want to stay as steady as we possibly can. Now, there's probably going to be a lot of turning left. That being said, we're going to aim right here. Notice we're coming in. There's a lot of turning left that we're doing there. A lot. Come back down the straightaway. Back into the throttle. I'm aiming for that same spot on the track. Now we're going to roll back into the throttle.
16.955.
And as the car is rotated, come out of the throttle and then back into the throttle. Out of the throttle. Obviously it got way lower than what I had planned on running there, but back up.
16.566.
Roll right through that spot that I just showed you. I'm going to come right back up the track. Right back down, roll right through that same line. We're going to roll back into the throttle as we come up the track.
16.547.
Now remember, if this car wants to push, if it doesn't want to rotate, you give it more throttle. Back up the track, we're going to come right back down the track. Right back into the same line. We're going to roll through the throttle. You notice I'm not stomping on the gas when I come out of the throttle. I'm not just like I was in the late model, getting right back on it.
16.549.
I'm slowly rolling back into the throttle, but not too slow. The reason being that I'm driving it like that is actually because with these cars in the new physics model, new tire model, it's very, very easy to spin your tires. And spinning your tires, if you're spinning your tires, what are you not getting? You're not getting traction. You're not getting forward momentum. You're just sitting and spinning. If you're stuck out in the mud in your truck and you're on the throttle, what are you doing? You're sitting, you're spinning your tires. When you get that traction, when you have that bite on your tires, then it's going to push you forward, or it's going to pull you backwards if you're in reverse. But obviously you're on a racetrack, you don't want to be in reverse, you want to go forward. So you want to maintain that throttle at a certain point. You want to roll through your throttle at a certain pace so that you don't lose traction. If you just hammer down, you're going to lose your traction. Just boom, 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 and your tires are just going to lose grip. Yes, because of your momentum, because of your speed, you're still going to be rolling forward most likely. Not as fast though. You've just lost that grip. You've just lost that forward momentum. Sometimes it even slows you down by quite a lot, and a lot of times you end up spinning out because now you've lost traction in your rear end. These cars are rear-wheel drive, so keep that in mind. You've lost traction in your rear end, and your front end is just free rolling now. With your front end just free rolling and you losing traction in your rear end is going to want to go left or right. It's just going to keep on going until you correct it somehow. So the basics of driving the UMP Modified: don't go full throttle unless you're having problems rotating. When you're having problems rotating the car, you give it more throttle. Maybe not full throttle, but at least a little bit more, and you bring the car back to the left. It doesn't hurt to turn the car left again. It doesn't. It really, really doesn't. A lot of times on a slick track, you'll see me get up against the wall. I'll be running a quarter of throttle around the track. I'll be up against the wall with my right rear on that cushion, and I'll be turning to the left hard all the way around the turn. It happens a lot. Officials this week are at Cedar Lake, or last week, I forget where we're at this week, but I think we're at Cedar Lake this week in official races. if any of my official races end up on YouTube, then you'll see me. I'm turning left so much, left, and I'm just bringing that car around the track at a quarter throttle, but I'm keeping that car flat. And then a lot of times I'm not even full throttle down the straightaways, especially when the track is slick. There's a lot of times you'll see me, I'm half throttled down the straightaway. I might not be putting as much throttle in the car as the car in front of me or the car behind me, but I almost guarantee you I'm going to be gaining on that car in front of me if I'm at a quarter throttle, or gapping the car behind me if I'm running at a half throttle around or down the straightaways, because I'm not losing that grip, and they probably are. Maybe not a lot, but at least some, that enough that gives me the forward momentum over them. So keep that in mind. Get out there, practice. I cannot preach this enough. Practice. And when you go out there and you practice, remember, goofing off does not help you. Is it fun? Yeah, and every once in a while I think you should do it. It is good to get out there and let loose and goof off and have fun. But remember, I do not teach practice makes perfect, because practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect, is what everybody should be teaching. So you go out there and you practice, and the more you practice it to the best of your ability, and you push yourself further, the better you're going to be and the faster you're going to be. So, with that in mind, thank you for watching. I hope this video helps. We'll see you in the next one.